All right. Hi, everybody. First on the agenda is from Vedansh regarding the Coverity project.
Yeah, should I begin?
Hey, yeah, please.
Hi. So Yuval and I worked over the last 2 months to resolve a couple of issues found in RGW by the Coverity tool. Coverity is a static analysis tool. Uh, so we which categorizes issues into high, medium, and low impact. So during the course of the last 2 months, we were able to work on all of the high impact and some of the medium impact ones. I'll be presenting the data regarding the effectiveness of the tool, and this may be helpful to the community to in deciding whether this tool might be useful uh, to take up further.
Thanks. Yeah, I see the gist link in the agenda. Feel free to share your screen. Yeah,
Yes.
great.
Yeah. So we of all the issues that we fixed, we categorized them into critical issues, ones that were serious bugs, nice to haves, which were not serious bugs but still improved the quality of the code. There were some issues which we deemed were actual bugs, but they're not worth the effort. It's not worth the effort fixing them right now, and some of them were false positives, as in they were reported as bugs by Coverity, but they were not actual bugs. Uh, One caveat here is that the largest category of bugs by far that was reported was that of unhandled exceptions. However, that does not show up in the data because one, we did not get the time to work on it, and two, even if we did, the sheer number of those bugs would dwarf all of these here. So moving on further to the analysis, around 40% of them was for false positives, and the rest 60% fell into the other categories of actual bugs, which we had categorized into critical, nice to haves, and not worth the effort. 40% were critical, almost equal to the false positive. Then we also have a categorization of what types of bugs they were. So apart from those unhandled exceptions mentioned earlier, the largest category was potential null dereferences, where you dereference a variable that is null. And then there were memory leaks, uninitialized variables, and 32-bit times. These are the six bugs that we decided are actual bugs, but they're not worth the effort fixing right now. Uh, so this was the outcome. If you look at this category, for example, null dereferences, 18 out of the 30 reported bugs, 18 were actual bugs, while 12 were false positive. In the next biggest category, 9 were actual bugs and 7 were false positives. Uh, so out the aim of this project was to both to improve the quality of the RGW code and to get some data on how effective a tool Coverity is, so that the community could decide whether it is worth integrating into the regular workflow or not. Uh, this was all from my side. Does anyone have any questions?
I think there's real value here. We definitely found some important bugs. I would be interested to learn more about what it says about unhandled exceptions, because I think RGW should be exception safe in most places, but getting there, I think, would be difficult.
There's a whole bunch of PRs that are kind of pending with regarding to the exceptions. I think it's in most cases we're not going to fix them, but you know, you can look at the PRs and see what are the issues there. But putting that aside, the exception thing, yeah, I agree. Even here, for me, that was a very good surprise. My initial guess was that would have something between 80 and 90% false positives, and the fact that we had like, let's say 50% false positives, or things we're not going to actually fix, was a great surprise, and really saying the tool is very good, especially that there's a large portion of the bugs that the tool fixed, which are not like possible future failures, but actual crashes and error leaks. So
Yeah, the false positive rate does seem really low. And given that there aren't that many, I mean, sometimes false positives are just because the code isn't as clear as it could be, and so it's hard for static analysis to know exactly what it's doing, and those might be cases where we try to do some code cleanup just to make it easier to read, both for programmers and static analysis. So that could be a potential future direction for this.
yeah, we didn't even go there. Like, I think maybe there was one or two places where we actually decided to do some kind of refactoring because it was really awkward. But in most cases, there was, quite a bit of the false positives were really difficult to read code, but we did not even change it or consider that as an issue here. So this could be even more use for the tool. Agree.
Yeah, definitely would prioritize that part lower than fixing the real ones, but yeah. So are there critical issues that still have outstanding PRs? What's blocking us from approving and merging more of this stuff?
Yeah, we went like from the high priority to the low priority. So the only thing that I think the unhandled exceptions are considered like medium priority. So I think those are the remaining medium priority issues. The rest are low priority, which, well, we might want to fix them. Like, low priority bugs are also things that are sometimes worth fixing. Like if you're passing a large struct not by reference, for example, and things like that, that should be addressed. It's just that these are not really bugs. So yeah, nothing really blocks us. I mean, the project ended, so it was part of the Google Summer of Code, so it has like a specific time in which the project takes, and that this ended at the end of August. And I guess the main goal, at least for me, was not just to fix the issues, but also figure out if we need to take that to the next step. For example, to automate the process, or make it part of the CI, or try to make sure that it's not a one-time effort that they do a cleanup, because those bugs are gonna creep in, eventually, and we need something to prevent that in the future.
Yeah, agreed. I know that we've had discussions about that in the past, but I don't remember exactly what the takeaways were.
I'll probably start like an email thread about that, because it involves, it's a decision that requires all kind of things that are just beyond some, writing code. For example, the tools is a licensed tool, and we need to figure out how that works. We need to think where to put that in the process. Is it going to be something like a nightly, or is this going to be part of the CI and Jenkins? And if so, how exactly that's going to work? So all those questions need to be answered before we move ahead with this. The current state where there is some kind of an upstream run done by Synopsys, which is a company that owns Coverity, and is running on some out-of-date upstream, and there are downstream runs, or not downstream, but there are like more recent runs that are based on something that Kayleigh prepared, but those are kind of internal reports, and they're not very useful in the way that they're structured. So the current state really make it difficult to make good use of the tool. And if a tool is not easy to use, then it's not being used. So if seeing the potential that we have here, we need to think how to make the tool useful.
For this GSOC project, was it the company version or a licensed version that we used?
So the GSOC, I mean, I think we kind of tried to use both, because it's much easier to browse the upstream version, or the version that runs on so like the internal version is not running on some downstream code. It's running on upstream code. It's just running on the latest upstream code, and the Synopsys kind of for community runs are on, I don't know exactly how they pick when and on which branch to run that. The thing is that Synopsys are providing for their runs a nice web UI, and internally we're running like a command line tool, which is great, but the output of the command line tool is just some static HTML, and very difficult to sort and figure out what's going on there exactly. So it requires more work. We had to use like the internal runs, because otherwise we wouldn't have seen the effect of the changes, because we need to, like, even if after PR is being merged, it takes time for the Synopsys run to catch that. So we kind of try to use both, but this is really just for the proof of concept as part of GSOC. We need to make that something that developers can use.
All right, yeah, I'd like to continue this discussion. The mailing list or further refactoring calls would be great. But I want to say thanks to Vedansh. Great work on this project. We learned a whole lot from it. And also thanks to Yuval for mentoring and reviewing all of it.
Great, thanks.
Any other comments on this before we move on? All right, next on the agenda is from Jane about multi-site, and looks like there are some races around data log and BI logs. I saw that you updated the tracker issue recently, but I haven't read through all of it. Do you want to summarize what you've learned, Jane? I'm not hearing anything from Jane's mic, but I see you're unmuted.
Can you hear me now? Okay, perfect. Hi.
Yeah, great.
Um,
Hey, Jane.
so I can talk about now about those findings in that issue. Actually, those some issues that I found during the investigation for this replication mismatch. For this mismatch, actually, we have like multiple contributors. I identified 3 of those. The first one is a potential dialog update lost if there are some like crashes in the RGW. Like we happen to have some crashes. Like I noticed some DataSync crashes in the RGW with the main branch version, but that's a different story. The crash is a different story. So right now I want to focus on what would happen if a crash happens on this, like what would happen on the dialog updates. So in our current implementation for the dialog updates, actually we have before we send it over to Windows layer, we have a cache. The cache is determined by config. Oh, what is that called? So called some like RGW data log window. That default value right now is 30 seconds. So those data log updates will cache and squashed if it's false in that window. So in my case, like there's some items in that cache, and then a crash happens. Then all those crashed items lost. So that's why those items never ended up in the dialog. So that's why the following replication data sync never like realized there's some new changes. Hence,
Okay.
yeah, it's like
So
mismatch.
what I remember about the data log window is that it is used for batching, but when we open the window, we do a data log write first, and then when the window closes, we do another write. But it sounds like data sync is seeing the first event before the actual upload's complete, and so it doesn't take action on them.
Right. So
and then never sees the final one.
Yeah. So so it all because there's some crashes happened in the middle before the dialog. Like we had the chance to flash the items from that window to Windows.
Casey, I think you're thinking of Bylog. Datalog is slightly different. Datalog basically just, well, yeah.
No.
Sorry.
No, actually, there are 2 issues. The following issue is Bylog. This one is Datalog in the function called add entry.
Oh, I know that one, but I think.
Yeah.
But I think what we're seeing is like the like I don't think we have. Sorry, the way Casey was describing it, I thought he was describing something like the Bylog where it does the initial and the complete. I was misinterpreting what Casey said. Sorry.
Okay, got it.
Well,
so
we do data log writes for both the prepare and the complete.
Oh, do we? All right. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. My apologies.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I observed from log is like the DataSync never read that particular entries. I look at this read object as well. So this dialog entry never ended up in that particular dialog shard. So I actually put in some like very quick and dirty fix, just bypass that the cache, and it all works fine. So I believe that's the issue.
So the question I have about that is, I would be overjoyed to get rid of the Windows stuff and Datalog. The question I have is the reason we're doing it so we don't end up having to hit the OSD repeatedly, or is the reason we're doing it because in the past we kept hitting large OMAP errors and we were hoping to cut down on large OMAP errors? Because if it's the former, then I think we can just, or if it's the former, then I don't know. I'm not sure we can do. I guess we just have to hit the OSD. If it's the latter, then there's really no reason not to get rid of the cache of the window at all.
I think it's both. I mean, so it's mostly about being able to batch. Say you have a bucket with one shard and you're just uploading a whole bunch of objects. Without the cache, every single upload would do 2 writes, one for the prepare and the complete. But with this cache, all of the object uploads would fall in the same window, so you'd only do one data log write for when we open the window, and then one final one after the data log window expires. So it combines what could be, hundreds or thousands of individual entries into 2.
But right now it causes more serious problem. It causes this incremental data sync, never be able to see that.
Yeah, I agree that there is a crash consistency issue here.
Okay, so this is the first problem. The second one is about the bylog update. So so when this object update complete, actually we send a bucket complete op, and then the bucket complete op actually is async. As soon as we send the request to Redis layer and we add the data log entries into the data log shard, and but at this moment, it's not necessary, like the bylog update not necessarily done yet. If the like data sync happens in between, after the data log entries is added and before the bylog entries is added, and then the entire bylog entry could be ignored. Yeah, that's really happened to me. So I verified it with like changing the bucket complete op from async to synchronized one, and this issue is gone. So yeah, that's the problem here. And it looks to me semantically it should be like, it should make sense, like we only, I mean, like finish the request after all this data as well as the data log and bylog all properly stored, right? So I wonder if it's okay to change it to synchronized call, but I don't know the impact on performance yet. I never tested that yet. Oh, and also I tried to do this adding data log sync in the completion handler of the bucket complete op, but it has the same problem with the first one because there's a queue like for this completion like handler, right? So if a crash happens there, the items in the queue are lost as well. So we the same thing, we lost the chance to add the item to data log. That what happened to me as well during my test.
Okay, so it sounds like the main issue with number 2 is that we're doing the data log write before the BI log write. So it's possible that we just do the data log write and then don't finish the BI log.
So
Is that right?
this is what happened, the sequence. So we send out async redos like operation to add for the bucket complete op. And then immediately after that, we add the data log entry. And after that, the data log sync happens for that particular entry. And then during the sync, the primary try to retrieve all this like bylog entries, right? But at this point, bylog entry hasn't been added yet.
I see. Yeah, so
And,
I think
yeah,
I think the data log write needs to happen after we complete the index completion app.
right. So there are 2 ways. One is that we do this data log entries in the completion handler. The second is make the bucket complete op synchronized one. So I tried the first. It has some other issues because the crash will happen like, and then the completion handler queue will be cleaned up. So the data log adding this will be lost.
Yeah, the the asynchronous index completions, I think, are a very important optimization for request latency because it allows us to reply to the client after just doing the prepare and the head object write.
Okay.
So I do think that the data log write should happen in the completion handler instead. So asynchronously with respect to the request.
Yeah. But what if like a crash happens there? Like we cannot
Right.
avoid any crashes, right?
So I think we should handle crash consistency of data log similar to how we handle it for bucket index operations themselves, the transaction, which is the recovery step in dir suggest during bucket listing. We talked about that recently, right?
Do we have a recording for that? I can look.
I thought we discussed it with you, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, no, probably not me. I don't
Okay.
have a.
So
Okay. I can.
I thought it was in the context of this tracker issue because isn't this the one that says that if you do a bucket listing, then it fixes the mismatch? Oh no, that's
Oh
a
yeah,
separate
that is
issue.
a separate issue.
Six
Oh, okay.
62709.
Okay, we did. Oh yes, we did talk about that. Okay.
Right. So the idea
Right,
is
right.
that during bucket listing, we identify entries that were prepared but not completed, and then we check the head object state, and based on that, we complete the index transaction. That would also, completing the index transaction would also generate a BI log entry for it. So if we're not generating data log entries at that point, then we should. And I think
Okay.
that would resolve the crash consistency issue, just as long as the bucket was listed at some point later.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's a good idea. And also, does this also apply to the first issue? The
I
cache
don't think it
window?
applies to the first issue. Maybe it does, but I don't think it does.
Yeah, let me look at it and think about more to see if it can also help the first issue. And
Because I
I'm
wouldn't
sorry.
be opposed. Sorry. Because I wouldn't be opposed to at least trying to take out the window optimization and running some performance tests on it and seeing exactly how much it hurts us.
Yep. Okay. Hi, Adam. You talked about the large OMAP one. Is that like a?
Oh
still
well, what
a
I was wondering is I wasn't sure whether the original rationale for the window optimization was simply not hitting the OSD with everything. That I don't know if that's going to be much of an issue since we're hitting the OSD a lot anyway. The other one I was curious about is way back in the elder days, we were constantly getting large OMAP warnings all over, and large OMAPs are harmful to performance generally. OMAP is not relevant. OMAP is only used if you have an old Ceph cluster and you never updated the data log to use something other than OMAP, to use FIFO.
Yeah. So we're using FIFO right now, so OMAP is not an issue anymore.
OMAP. Well, the reason I meant, it isn't. That's why I'd be happy to take out the window optimization. The only concern I'd have with OMAP is that if we do take out the window optimization, people who are still on OMAP might start getting large OMAP warnings. Although we can simply add that to a release note, perhaps.
Yeah.
But I mean, large OMAP warnings are just a symptom that your queue is too big, and
Yeah.
I would say that's still an issue even if it's in FIFO, because tons of data log entries means that data sync is going to take a long time to get through all of it. So I think,
but I thought the issue with large OMAP in particular was that RocksDB performance just ends up going down and taking out a bunch of other stuff with it. was my understanding.
Yeah, there were tons of issues. The log trimming was a big pain because RexDB deletes in particular were expensive. And that plus compaction would take down OSDs. I think the situation's quite a bit better with range trimming, but right, with the FIFO data logs, we avoid all of that entirely. But I still think that there's big optimizations from the data log window. But yeah, I'm not sure what to do about the crash consistency issues there.
I mean, the main alternative, I guess, would be to have some sort of set that we keep on the OSD, and we add things to the set, well, when we're doing it, and take them back out after. But I'm not sure if that's actually an improvement, since we're still adding, since it seems like that might add even more, since we'd still be adding OSD ops to update the set, that sort of thing. So I don't know if that would really help us. I honestly kind of like to try it without the data log or without the window optimization, and I would really like to see if we can propose trying it both ways and seeing how big the optimization is, honestly.
Yeah, sure. For FIFO specifically, I had suggested adding batching at that layer. So instead of making an RGW's writes race with each other, we would just keep a queue of unwritten entries and write them sequentially. But I think that would have the same crash consistency issues as the data log window we have now.
Okay, I still have like the third issue. The third issue is actually not as serious as the first two. It happens during this bucket sync target hints or bucket sync source sync like reading. It seems like it takes too long, and when it comes back, the request like it's gone. So but actually at that point, the object upload already done and everything is added to the primary. But the dialog is not yet. So, but from client side, this put request might be like a failure because I never seen a response sent back. So probably from their side, it's a timeout. But nonetheless, it created the consistent status, like states between the primary and secondary. I wonder, like, what we usually handle this kind of issue? Is it okay? Or it seems like from cluster's point of view, server point of view, it's not okay. But client side, they might re-upload that object. I don't know. So I don't know why the OSD that rating is very slow, but it could happen.
Yeah, I don't remember where in the request path we try to read that. Isn't it pretty early on, or is it at the end?
Towards the end. So I don't know. I haven't got the time to track into the exactly code path yet, but I observed in the logs.
Okay. Yeah, this is part of the per bucket replication stuff that Yehuda authored that's never really been vetted or tested well. So I don't have a good understanding of what it's doing there. I do think it's cached in the metadata cache. So once it's read, we should be able to just satisfy it from cache most of the time, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, you're right. I can see the cache, but there's a cache miss. When it's not in the cache, we'll try to read it, right? So that's, yeah, where it happened. This one I can dig more into the code to look at exactly code path for that.
Okay. It's depending on where we do that now, it might be worth moving it out of the index transaction just so it doesn't cause consistency issues there.
Okay.
Like so timeouts don't expand the window of the transaction like that.
Yep. Okay, that's all from me.
Just a note on that. So these are all recent issues after we fixed the fairness thing, or they've always been there, actually, or we were just lucky we couldn't catch this before.
From the history, it looks like that's been there for quite a while. But I think that it manifests itself like so consistently right now is because there are some crashes. I'm not sure who like if we have like issues for those crashes, but yeah, I'll try to catch some crashes, and then if there's not one yet, I'll like open an issue tracker.
Shilpa just raised a fix.
Yeah,
I will.
I was gonna ask about what this crash was about. Do you have a trace?
Yeah, I have some like the crashes I observed consistently is the data sync thread crash. I'm not sure if it's the one that you were working
Does
on.
it happen during incremental sync?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, I think we addressed one crash. I'll just link the PR here. Maybe
I added to the agenda a link to your tracker issue and pull request for that one. It was just approved yesterday, I think.
yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah, I can get that one and test it again. Thank you.
Right, so I agree that it's not related to sync fairness. This is all happening on the right side, and sync fairness is the sync side. So I think this is all outstanding issues related to crash consistency. So to recap, I think we can fix the one in dirsuggest, but the data log window itself, I think, needs more thought. And Adam, I guess, do you want to work with Mark to set up a test for the performance of that?
I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to try to make a proposal to either first set up. I think the first thing I'll do is I'll make a data log window removal patch that cleans up a lot of the infrastructure, so we aren't paying for mutexes we aren't using. The other thing, if it actually does cost us significantly performance-wise, then I think I'll see about making sort of making a CLS for a sort of set, just so we can have some idea of basically a crash recovery set of everything that's currently in the window stored on the OSD, separate from the data log entry, so that we can basically synthesize an entry when we see it, if that makes sense.
So Adam, so I will leave that to you. So I will work on the second issue.
That sounds good to me.
Okay.
Okay, and the dirsuggest side, I think might be a little tricky because dirsuggest uses async writes to complete the entries that it sees, and so you would need to also send data log entries after those async writes finish.
Okay.
But just starting with data log entries in the bucket index completion handler, I think is a good start.
Yes, I would tested that. Got more crashes.
Okay, well, if you have a change that does that and has crashes, feel free to raise a draft PR with the changes, and I'll try to help review and and we can make progress that way.
Yeah, but those crash has nothing to do with my changes. Like it's some other changes. Like, let me get Shilpa's PR in, but
yeah.
even
I just updated your tracker with the PR.
Okay, but even address these crashes, we cannot avoid other possible future like crashes, right? Or maybe like the user just killed that RGW instance. That
Okay, I think I misunderstood when you said that you did test moving the data log right into the completion handler and saw crashes from that, but you're just talking about crash consistency in general.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that change would help with index apps that actually complete, but we would need the dir suggest change also to do recovery for the ones that didn't.
Yeah, okay, I'll look into that.
Casey, if just to clarify, what is dir suggest going to do? I mean, how is it going to help? Just trying to understand.
So dir suggest will complete the bucket index transactions that didn't before a crash, and those would generate BI log entries, but I believe that nothing is adding data log entries for those, and so nothing would trigger data sync to pick them up.
Okay. Okay, yeah, got it.
All right, well, it's good that we're fixing the crashes here, but it might be a good idea to, at some point, try to do some thrash testing that injects crashes kind of at random, or maybe just RGW shutdowns, so that we're more likely to reproduce this stuff in testing.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, any other thoughts on data log multi-site crash consistency before we move on? All right, last up is Krunal about notifications. Take it away.
Thank you. So this is just kind of follow-up to our discussion like maybe a couple of weeks ago, where we decided to implement the IAM policies for notifications, which didn't exist earlier. So AWS was providing two options. One was while doing the create topic API itself, you can pass in the data protection policy. And the other way is to implement the API called as add permission. So while we were implementing the data protection policies, like to pass in the policy during the create topic itself, during our testing, we found like we're not exactly an issue, but then something that I need to discuss here is currently the way we implemented notification was we did not implement the set topic attributes. So if we have created a topic and we want to change some attributes to it, we again call create topic again. So create topic would be called again, and then you would pass in any attributes that you want to change, right? So now that data protection is part of that create topic, suppose the second time somebody calls create topic and does not pass in those policies or data protection policies, what is the expected behavior? Should we override the policies that were there before? So right now what happens is you get the subsequent call to the create topic would just reset all the values. So all the attributes and the policies that gets overwritten. So basically nothing is then so the policy gets wiped out, and the next time there is no policy, and so that user which was allowed using that policy cannot access the topic. So it's not specific only to policy, but in general, like a subsequent call to create topic, should it rewrite all the values, or it should only write the values that are passed in, basically? because create topic allows you to pass in attributes and policy both. So if both of them are not passed, what do you do? Do you override the previous values or let them be there? Or how do you decide?
So I think, so I mean, first of all, this is a great catch of something that, I mean, we kind of cut corners, but it never was a big issue till now, I guess. So I think the correct thing to do is to implement the set attribute.
Right, that's what I thought as well.
And so the create topic can override, because I mean, currently in current implementation, there's no policy
Right.
checking, and
Right.
so it's the same thing. Doesn't matter, right? If you override or change everything, it's the current behavior. We can just skip that. But once we introduce the policy, then it's becoming a bigger issue, and because then you need to remember what was your policy, and then after you do the create topic to change the parameter, you also need to set the policy in a different call. So I think the correct thing would be to implement the set attribute. So if somebody has the new version and they implement the system, then they just do that correctly. If somebody has the old system, then they don't care about the policies anyway, so they can just override. It doesn't matter. I think that would be kind of keeping backward compatibility, but also allowing new users to do that correctly.
So that means the subsequent call to create topic should not update any values, right? Like if so.
Oh no, I think the subsequent call should, because this is like the current behavior. If somebody is just using that to update the topic and they don't care about permissions or anything, you should just continue to work for them. If they do care about permissions, it means that they're going to use the set the set permissions, and then we can just change the documentation. In this case, if you want to update, you use the set attributes. I mean, what I'm saying, if somebody has a system in place, they don't have permissions, so they just use create topic to update the topic. This is fine. We don't want to break their system.
Okay.
And if somebody gonna get the new version, and in the new version you have the set permissions,
Right.
so we can tell them, if you want to do that and you want to update something, you also use the set attributes. So they have a new application anyways, right? They're using the set permission, which is a new API that we didn't have in the past.
No, but the problem is that set topic attribute only allows you to set the attributes. The policy is still set via create topic. The data protection policy is a parameter to create topic API and not to set topic attribute.
Right. No, I understand. What I'm saying is that if somebody is writing a new system that needs permissions, we're going to tell them, you create the topic, you set the permissions. If you want to change something with the topic, you should use the correct API, which is set attributes. If somebody has an existing system where they use the create topic to update everything, then they're not using the permissions. If they want to use the permissions, we're going to tell them, use the new correct APIs.
But then there could be a scenario in the new world as well. A user has just created a topic and has not set any permissions. In that case, you'll still end up in the same scenario where the other user then has the access to the topic, right? Like a user in the new world, a user created a topic but did not set any permissions, right?
Right.
So the permissions would be empty in that particular topic. Now any other user would then be able to go ahead and change, because as per we are trying to do we are trying to maintain the maintain consistency with the old system, where we are saying if old system did not have any permissions, then allow any user to go and update the topic, which will happen here as well in the new world.
Yes, but again, I mean, compatibility is extremely important for us. We don't want to kind of all of a sudden break code. If somebody didn't care about permissions in the past and they have a system that is working, we don't want them to upgrade and then all of a sudden notifications are not going out because you don't have the publish permission.
So to maintain, probably we add a flag thing, maybe.
We can we can do that. But I mean, by default, what I'm saying, I have a running system. I upgrade it. I expect it to keep on running.
Right.
So yes, we can add a flag. for somebody that wants to make sure that they didn't miss anything and there are no kind of corners or problems, we can set a flag saying, we have to check, check permissions in topics or something like that. And in this case, if they set the flag to true, then all of a sudden things stop to work. But this is their intention. The intention is that things that are not set correctly would not work, and they express this intention. But again, by default, just by upgrade, we don't want anything to break.
Should that be a configuration value or something like, or
That could be a global configuration, because this is really a global decision of somebody deciding, okay, we have a running system, we have topics, but we want to fix it. And in order to fix it, we need to first prevent anything that we don't want to allow. And then we're going to, slowly go through all the topics and set the permissions correctly if needed, and so on.
Okay, so that helps solving the compatibility problem. So still, now suppose just talk about the new system, right? In the new system, what should be the behavior in the subsequent calls of your create topic, right? So now create topic should only technically be called by the owner and not by any other user.
Yes, because right. Yes, I mean, if you've set permissions, or if you have this flag set, then create topic is like modify. So other users are not allowed to modify.
Right. So they will then be subscribing to set topic attributes where they can go and modify the attributes, and they need to have that permission to modify the attributes, right?
Yes.
Makes sense. And then they cannot change the permissions. Permissions is still is controlled by the owner, whom to give the permission to.
Right. I mean, there is a permission flag to allow somebody else to set permissions. Maybe you want to support that. I don't know how high priority is that, but
fair enough. Makes sense. So okay, that makes sense. So that leaves me only with one last question. Sorry, like now in the new system, like when the owner again calls the create topic and does not pass in the protection policies, like does not pass in the policy, should it override or should the policy stay there if it was there before?
I guess if there was a policy there, then it means that they accept things to work according to the policies. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, if they're using it the new way, if you're using it the new way, then what we would expect them is to create and then to override the attributes using the set attributes.
Correct.
So
you will never be able to call it. Correct. No, but then if they want to update the policy, how do they do? They have to call create topic again, right? That's the only way of updating the top going forward.
What? No, 1 second. If they want to update the policy, they have the set permissions.
So set permission is different, and so there are two ways, right? In AWS, one is via set permission, and one is also via policy. Doing via policy is only done in the create topic. That's what. So this was purely for create topic. In the create topic, you can pass in the JSON string, like the way the bucket policies work, the statements and the principle and the effect you allow. That can only be done via create topic. That's an AWS again limitation.
Right. Yeah.
And you can only have one set of policy at a time. So it's the same as bucket. The way it works on the bucket policies, it's something same as topic policies.
To be honest, again, I think this is quite arbitrary. I mean, we can make whatever decisions, long as it's documented. I don't have a strong opinion here. It's like it's the new thing anyway, and
So I was more inclined, like if the policy exists, and if in the next calls the policy is not explicitly sent, do not change it. But if it is sent, then of course go and update it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean that can work again in the new case. Whatever behavior that makes more sense, I'm okay with. Just make sure that it's documented. Other than that,
is the question about whether create topic should overwrite existing policy versus try to merge existing values? If so, I would lean towards overwrite.
That's how it works in the bucket as well, Casey. Like you cannot have merging of policies, you can only have one set of policy at a time. Like it's in, so it's, I was thinking on the same lines for topic as well. The question was, it's a parameter that you need to pass in as part of create topic. So if that parameter is not passed, what do you do?
Right. I wasn't talking about merging just the policy part. I was talking about merging existing anything on the topic. I feel
Okay.
like create topic should be item potent so that it creates exactly what you send, so that a get topic request would return exactly the same thing, which
Okay.
I think
Okay.
overwriting everything is kind of the only sensible way to handle it.
Okay, so if something is not sent, that you should be assuming that it has been reset. So suppose policy is not sent, you just clear the policy, right? Is that what you're trying to say, Casey?
Right. And it
Okay.
sounds like that's the current behavior. Is that right?
Right, that's the current behavior. So, but currently there was no policy. It was overwriting at least the endpoints, all of the other attributes like opaque data, endpoints, broker, like broker acknowledgements and stuff like that. So all of those were, if they were not passed, they basically were overwritten.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I guess we can do the same with policy, and since we, I mean, ideally we add the set attribute API, it means that if somebody wants to set an attribute but not override the policy, they can just use the set attribute API. And
Right.
then
So that's what I'm saying. So going forward, any other user cannot call create topic. Basically, create topic can only be called by the owner.
Right.
Fair enough. Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, again, if a policy was set, if no policy is set, then, and the global flag is set by, I mean, by default, if no policy is set and the global flag for requiring permissions on topics is false, then any user can override the policy.
Yeah. I'm talking about the new world. Yeah. In the new world, the create topic can only be called by the owner in the new world,
right,
when the
yes.
permissions are enabled by default, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Fair enough. Okay. Thanks. That answers. I'll just document that and probably pass it along with the PR so it's easier to do that.
Awesome. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I'll
Thanks
implement
for-
the set topic attribute as well. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, great. We're just coming up on the hour, so now's a good time to end it. Some really good discussions. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you.